What makes October a good month to get out there at night? We've got an annual meteor shower, 3 great planets right after sunset, and the moon stops by throughout the month as well. A space launch, and we've got a wonderful night where a lot of people get out there while the stars are out as well. So welcome to October of 2021, Observing with Webb, where a high school astronomy teacher tells you what you're looking at, why it's so cool, and what you should check out later this month at night. So right now we've got a whole bunch of planets being able to be seen. We're going to have a couple of events and some constellations. So why don't we get started with the planets?
Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn.
Looking out at sunset, you have probably already seen a bunch of these planets already. They were out last month. They're going to be out this month as well. But basically, we've got Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn. What you may have noticed is that from past months, Jupiter and Saturn have actually gotten closer to Venus and have been up a little bit earlier every day. In fact, you'll see that here. If I go from October 1st to the 31st, you'll see they get much closer together. Okay, but let's go back to the first. And what you'll notice is Venus is going to be up here. It's going to be up there all month. It's about 10 degrees above the horizon, maybe about 15, depending on when you look. And yeah, it's just a really, really wonderful thing to see. It's just this bright beacon in the dusk. Then you've got Jupiter and Saturn, which are more toward the southeast, south, that area. And when you're looking at these, Jupiter and Saturn, Jupiter is real easy to find. It's the brightest one out there, kind of toward the south. It's about, let's see, this has it at 23 degrees, 30 degrees. So it's about almost a third of the way up the sky. And that's just going to be super bright. In fact, I got some pretty good pictures the other night of these two stars and Jupiter making this really cool equilateral triangle in the sky. And let's see, this one is Nishira, and the other one is Deneb Al-Giedi. Deneb Al-Giedi. I'll go with that. So just beautiful. Saturn's off to the right. And what you'll notice, though, too, is that throughout the night, let me fast forward time a little bit here. Throughout the night, you'll notice that they move to the south, and then they move toward the southwest, and they're going to set. Now, in the beginning of the month, Saturn sets at 2 a.m., Jupiter at 3 a.m., and then by the end of the month, you've got Saturn and Jupiter setting at about 11 or 12 at night, respectively. But it's a wonderful month to go out and see them. They're up right when the sky gets dark. Jupiter, obviously, is super cool to look at. Oops. Super cool to look at because what you get is you'll be able to see the cloud bands of Jupiter in a telescope, and you'll see some of the moons on each side. Now, I was able to get not a good picture, but I was able to actually see with my camera. I had on a 300 millimeter lens, so zoomed all the way in, pretty standard zoom lens, but zoomed all the way in, and on the actual LCD screen of the camera, I zoomed in, and I was actually able to see the moons of Jupiter right around it. And it was really cool to think that I could see the moons, and it was that simple. But anyway, and of course, Saturn is super cool because, well, A, it's up, B, it's close to Jupiter, and C, look at those rings. Again, in a telescope, you'll probably get something pretty small like that, but it is breathtaking no matter how big it is. You might be able to catch some of those those moons as well. But anyway, that's up there. Oh, and one last thing about Venus. Venus right now is in a really cool half phase. So if you were to get a telescope, it would be real easy to see Venus in like a half visible, essentially, like a half pizza pie right there. You will only see this bright part. This dark part, you're just not going to be able to make out. But it is really cool to know that planets go through phases as well. And lastly, for the planets, I mean, that's the big one. The last thing is Mercury. You might be able to catch in the east if you are looking at sunrise starting about 2 weeks in to October. So the last 2 weeks of October, you should be able to find Mercury if you're good. So you want to look toward the east. Okay. And in fact, let's go a little bit further. What you'll notice is each day Mercury is a little bit higher and it's a little bit darker. And right on like the 24th, 25th, Mercury is going to be about as high as it's going to get, which means you'll be able to see it as easily as you can. You might need binoculars, but you should be able to find it. But basically, it should be rising at about 5 a.m., breaking that horizon in the east at 5 a.m., okay? And you should be able to see it just before sunrise. Okay, sunrise being 6:23. Oh, no, actually, that should be sunrise being at 6:50, something like that. Anyway, somewhere around that time, go ahead, see if you can find Mercury. Just look for that nice bright light low on the horizon.
And a bunch of other stuff.
So what's going on throughout the month? Let's start off with the moon phases. Okay, we're going to start off the month with the morning crescents. Just look east in the morning and you'll be able to see a crescent moon. And then, of course, you've got the new moon right after that on the 6th. That's when we have the darkest skies. Then for the following week, we've got the evening crescents. Just look west after sunset. The first quarter moon is on the 12th. That's visible basically until midnight. That's when it sets. After that, you get the evening gibbous moons where the moon is mostly lit. And you can see it starting at sunset. And then on the 20th, you can see the full moon. That's when it's totally full and out the entire night. After that, you get the waning gibbous phases. That's when it's mostly lit. The left half is mostly lit. And you have to wait a little bit after sunset to actually find it. And then the last quarter moon is on the 28th. Okay? So when the left half is lit up, and you can only see it after midnight and into the morning. Okay? Now, there are some other events going on. In fact, I have one right up here right now. This is the moon getting together with Venus. Okay, it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. In fact, there's another star right in there, which is Dashuba. Yeah, Dashuba. And Venus is right down here at a very high magnitude. Dashuba is kind of dim, but the moon's there. It's going to be absolutely breathtaking. Just get out there and watch the sunset at about 5:33 p.m. or actually, I think 6:33. Let's double check daylight savings time. This is on. So, yes. All right. Yeah. So that'll actually be right around 6:33. All right, and you're going to hang out until you see bright Venus with a nice thin crescent moon about 2 degrees above it. Okay, and then the following night, you'll notice a little difference here. On the 10th, the moon is off to the left. It's kind of moved away. You might be thinking, wait, you know what? There's some other planets in the moon's path, but further down the line, and you are correct. You see Saturn and Jupiter there. And so as we go through the nights, the moon travels, and oh, here we go. Let's set up for October 13th to the 15th, okay? October 13th to the 15th, get out there after sunset, and you should see a moon over here with Saturn and Jupiter up and to the left of it. And then on the 14th, Jupiter and Saturn flank the moon. So the moon's kind of right in between but down below it, kind of mimicking the Capricornus shape there. And then on the 15th, the moon moves to the left of Jupiter. Obviously, you can see the moon and all these planets for basically an entire 2 weeks, but this is when the planets are close to the moon and makes it really fun to see. Now, you'll notice that the moon then each night goes further and further away, and it looks like on the 20th, okay, which is the night of the full moon, there's something else going on, and I can't really show you in here, but starting on the 20th, going to the 22nd, is the Orionid meteor shower. Now, it's usually a decent meteor shower. You get about 15 meteors per hour. However, this full moon right here is going to mess us up. Okay, so the problem is that the moon reflects the light of the sun, and that light goes into the atmosphere, and then the atmosphere gets bright, kind of like a fog machine at a dance, and it sort of drowns out some of the very weak meteors that you might just be able to catch. Okay. However, that doesn't mean it's not worthwhile to get out there. Just don't plan any trips to go to any place, because it's not going to be any better even at a dark sky spot like Cherry Springs, because the moon is so bright. So anyway, get out there whenever you can. Best is in the morning. And just find a nice spot to lie down. I 100% promote hammocks as a great way to do this. But just understand that the meteors are going to be coming from Orion. And I need to fast forward a little bit throughout the night to show you. There's Orion's club up here. That's where they're going to appear to be coming from. That's why, if this is your source, as you get later in the night, you can see more and more of the area where it's coming from and the area that those are going to. So you get this other half over here on the left. So the earlier in the morning, the better it's going to be for you. But just go out there and try to catch a couple good ones. Don't expect to do anything crazy with this. I wouldn't invite people over. I don't know, maybe just invite people over to have fun anyway. But alas. Last thing for the month, we have Halloween. Okay, let me fast forward to October 31st. And let's go to, I don't know, let's go to like 7 p.m. Okay. There we go. Yep, a little bit after 7 p.m. So we've got some trick-or-treating going on, and what do you have going on out there in the sky? Well, you have Venus still bright and up there. You're going to have Saturn easily visible and Jupiter, just like we talked before. Also, it is a moonless night. There's no moon, so it's going to be nice and dark. You're going to be able to see a lot of stuff. So this, if you have a telescope, you could take it out and actually have people look through your telescope as they're trick-or-treating. There's their treat. I give them candy anyway, but there's their treat. And what you can do is, well, yeah, you've got Venus, Jupiter, Saturn. Those are just great beginner targets. If you really want, you could probably try for the Andromeda Galaxy or the Ring Nebula over here, but honestly, just showing people a glimpse of Jupiter or Saturn is just an absolutely remarkable experience. Oh, second last thing for Halloween, SpaceX will be launching the Crew 3 mission on a Falcon 9 rocket, and this is coming from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. It's going to carry 4 astronauts to the International Space Station. And it's the third operational flight to the International Space Station with SpaceX using that Crew Dragon spacecraft. Easily watchable on YouTube, and if you get there early enough, they do a good job of explaining how it works. So I would go ahead and look at that. All right. And that's it for the events. Don't forget to get out for Halloween. Get out there for the 21st Orionid meteor shower, and check out the moon as it crosses through all those planets throughout the month.
Are there patterns in our skies? Are patterns only in our eyes?
Constellation finding for October. Here's what we've got going on. For this year, you can use Jupiter and Saturn as kind of a guide. So if you can find Jupiter and Saturn and then look basically straight up, or just look straight up above you, you'll be able to see these 3 right here: Cygnus, Aquila, and Lyra. Cygnus the Swan is the brightest star, Deneb. Lyra has the brightest star in the summer sky, Vega. And Altair is Aquila's brightest star. And they just form this really big, nice triangle that you can see this triangle even in the cities. As you get into darker areas, you can start making out the actual constellations. My favorite right here, though, is Delphinus the dolphin right there. Just a very pretty and small constellation. But let's say, so that's after dinner. Let's say you go out, before you go to bed, you can see Pegasus up there. This great big square, which is Pegasus. Pretty easy to find. And then off to the left, you'll see Andromeda with these two curves. Okay, and those two curves sort of help you find the Andromeda galaxy. So what you do is you find these two stars right here. They're the second pair or the middle pair of stars. And you see that distance that they are away from each other. And then you travel that same distance in, and that is where you're going to find the Andromeda galaxy. Let me see if I can actually get that up there. There we go. Oh, yeah, zoomed in far too much. So the Andromeda galaxy is this nice little faint fuzzy, okay, right in there, and you might be able to see it with your naked eye, okay. It won't look anywhere near as detailed as this. This is a composite image, but it will be a nice faint little fuzz. If you have binoculars, you might be able to catch a little bit more of it, okay. All right, let me back on out again, and let's say we go to early in the morning. So let's go 5 a.m. There we go. We've got Orion. That's my favorite thing in the mornings in the fall. I get to see Orion, this old friend, a good guidepost for the winter constellations, and just a beautiful bow tie in the sky. I encourage you to find it. And if you have a telescope, this M42, the Orion Nebula, it looks like it's going to be a star, but then you zoom in on it and you sort of see this wonderful nursery of young stars. Just absolutely gorgeous. One of the first things I sketched in my sketchbook, and just gorgeous. So anyway, that pretty much does it for the month of October. I'm hoping that everyone's staying safe out there. And don't forget that you can find this as a podcast on mrwebb.podbean.com. You can look for it on Stitcher and iTunes. Also Twitter and Instagram at MrWebbPV or PV Planetarium. And we're going to be having some events coming up in the fall. I'll be announcing those soon. And that is it. So I'd like to wish you all very clear, dark skies for the month of October.